What improved your quality of life so much, you wish you did it sooner? Mizarowski said. Independent blankets for my wife and I in bed. Incredible how much better you sleep when there's no waking up with blankets pulled half off or using one that's too heavy or too light. I'd highly recommend for anyone that sleeps with a significant other. Alternative Rip 4728 said. Cutting out toxic friends. After years of knowing someone, it can be hard to see that they are no longer the person they were when the relationship started. My childhood best friend grew into a manipulative, selfish prick. For years I hung out with him almost every day after work and always felt miserable afterwards. Everyone around me questioned why I still spent time with him. I always made excuses that seem ridiculous in hindsight. I should have cut ties 10 years ago. Clownfish Soup said. Let me introduce you to car naps. At my office, pretty much every new parent coworker would eat a quick lunch, then sit in their car and nap. Or take a 20-minute coffee break in their car. You knew the car nappers because their cars would be parked in a lot that was not quite visible from the office due to some trees and the spots were shaded. Jarek Blood Dragon said. 100% this. I don't know how people take naps. If I'm going to sleep, I'm just gone. Edit. I sleep 8 hours every night. No, the reason I can't take naps is not because I don't get enough sleep. It's because I do get enough sleep. I'm also not a morning person, and waking up again sounds terrible. Mayo. Edit 2. Morning people are dumb. No, just because someone isn't a morning person doesn't mean they need more sleep. That's just how most normal people are. Zanzibar said. From one chronically sleepy person to another, here's a helpful list of things you should run through to see if any of them might be contributing to your sleepiness. Actual sleep-related issues. Do you keep a consistent sleep schedule? Waking up at the same time every day no matter what? No caffeine within 8 hours of going to bed? Even if you can fall asleep with caffeine in your system, your quality of sleep is decreased. No alcohol within a few hours of going to bed? Same as caffeine, where you can fall asleep, and frequently people report falling asleep more easily, but alcohol disrupts your sleep cycles and causes worse sleep. Do you take naps late in the day? Do you find the times you're naturally most alert to be significantly different than what is considered normal? There are circadian rhythm sleep disorders that cause lots of sleepiness if you're not sleeping when your body naturally wants to. Need sleep specialist diagnosis. Zanzibar said. Do you get enough sleep? 7-9 hours is typically considered normal for adults, but sleep needs vary person to person. Do you snore, especially loudly, or wake up gasping? Snoring can be rated to sleep apnea, a condition where you stop breathing in your sleep and your body is constantly waking up because of it. Sleep apnea has to be diagnosed with a sleep study. It can also be life-threatening if severe enough and left untreated. Any history of sleep disorders in your family? Bodily issues. Do you have depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues? Do you get enough sunlight early in the morning and throughout the day? Bright light early in the morning helps regulate sleep cycles, which should help you feel more awake during the day. Plus, also vitamin D deficiency can cause fatigue. Are you deficient in any vitamins or minerals? Need blood tests to see official levels, but specifically vitamins D, B, and K along with iron are essential for how you feel in regards to sleepiness and fatigue. Are you eating enough? Extreme calorie deficits can cause fatigue. Moderately low deficits, that is, 500 calories under your TD, should not cause this issue. Zanzibar said. Do you exercise regularly? Are you drinking enough water? Recommended water intake varies from source to source, but generally a good rule of thumb is to drink between 0.5–1.0 ounces per pound of body weight. Adjusts according to weather and activity level. Also note that things like caffeine and alcohol dehydrate you, so you should accommodate your intake accordingly. Do you have any chronic health conditions? Lots of medical issues can contribute to sleepiness and fatigue, including but absolutely not limited to autoimmune diseases, thyroid issues, and pain disorders. Are you stressed or very understimulated? This is just my personal experience, but if I'm stressed I tend to feel extra sleep from dealing with it. If I'm really bored or understimulated, I also tend to feel more tired, but if I find something engaging to do, I find myself feeling more awake. This list is not exhaustive by any means but could be a helpful starting point if you're not sure why you're tired. Edit. Added sleep apnea. Water. Safely Beyond Redempt said, I must have spent a good 3 years of my 30s thinking it was all downhill from here. Minor aches and pains that add up. Sore bones and joints. Turns out I was just being lazy and getting fat. In my 40s now. Exercise daily. Lift weights 5 days a week and mountain bike twice a week and just ran 6 miles this last weekend. In better shape now than at any point in my 30s and feel great, so why did I ever let myself feel like a sloth before? Kill It said, a good starting point is to enable the developer ribbon in Excel. Google it, it's easy. Next, don't bother trying to write any VBA, just record a macro for a simple, but repetitive task, like moving to a certain cell and pasting. Recording a macro is as easy as pressing the record button, doing a few things in Excel, and pressing the stop button. Now, every time you run the macro, it repeats what you recorded. You can assign a keyboard shortcut to launch it. Again, Google is your friend. Next, look at the VBA behind the macro you just made. That's what you'll be writing yourself once you learn a bit more. Mess around with the code, see what happens when you change bits. This will give you a feel for it. Once you're at this stage, start reading beginner-level tutorials on VBA. You can record something similar to what you want, then fine-tune it for a lot of tasks, so you don't need to be an expert to build some really useful macros that can literally shave hours off your day. Alder89 said, well, I picked up the most from my internships and early analyst days, but that's because I had prior coding background. I once worked in software development QA. I was told from recent recruits that they've learned macro and VBA from YT or LinkedIn learning tutorials. You could also ask your firm whether they provide these type of skill training. Allstar64 said, as a kid I got braces and any flossing I did stopped completely right there since it was too annoying to work around them. Once I got them off, I overheard a relative of mine talking about how his dentist told him he'd have no teeth if he didn't start flossing, and for some reason that stuck with me. However, I still really hated flossing my back teeth with floss alone, so I began looking for flossing picks and ended up finding a great one specifically designed to assist in getting the back teeth, Dentec Easy Reach Floss Picks. Ever since buying those, there has been nearly no days where I missed flossing. While I would strongly recommend anyone who hates using string alone to look into flossers, and I would like to endorse these picks, there is a slight issue. They redesigned them recently and I have not had a chance to use the new design. Just looking at them I can tell they still have the good shape for back teeth flossing and they seem fine, but the floss quality was changed and I haven't tried the new floss yet, so I don't know how good they currently are. Allstar64 said, edit, well, this is slowly becoming one of my fastest upvoted comments ever, so I figured I'd say a few more things. First, something I forgot to mention about the Dentec flossers is that while most of the time I could reuse a single flosser multiple times for my whole mouth, ooh gross. Says the person reusing the same toothbrush for 6 months. Don't worry, I cleaned them. I did notice that every now and then I'd open a new package and discover that all the flosser would snap almost immediately. This wasn't a some of the flosser in the pack issue. It was always the entire pack was great or the entire pack was duds. That being said, I believe this has only happened for 2 packs out of over 30, but I do want to be as honest as possible. Second, many people have pointed out that water picks are also a good option that produce far less plastic waste. More importantly, however, if you or your kids are getting braces, this is by far a much easier way to floss your teeth with all the metal in the way. I actually had a water pick while I had braces and it worked well, but for a really stupid reason I never used it. The outlet in the bathroom only worked while the light was turned on, so I couldn't charge the water pick in the bathroom, but since it wasn't in the bathroom I would just forget about it. Looking online, water pick technology seems to have come a long way, even so far as to have cordless waterproof ones. I might look into trying them again once I run out of the plastic types. Rogue Planet 1 said, it's a great lesson for young people. If you're wrong about something, don't double down on it, just admit fault. Learn, and keep it moving. We all make mistakes, let's quit pretending we're somehow better than everybody else. Edit, I didn't mean to imply that only young people need to learn this, I just meant it's how we prevent future adults from being insufferable. Edit 2. Damn, so many rewards, thanks. It's just common sense though. Yeti said. Learning to be okay with saying no and starting off all relationships, personal and professional, with healthy boundaries. You don't ever need an excuse to say no to if you don't want to do something. Don't feel like going out with friends that night? No thank you. Don't want to work an extra shift at your place of employment if it's not mandatory? No thanks boss. Boundaries are amazing, and when set from the beginning, they are much easier to maintain for your own mental well-being. Edit. Well, this has become my highest upvoted comment. Thanks to everyone who responded with stories related to boundary setting, and stay strong if you still struggle with this. Mike said what's up septon to add to this, a big thing is actually just saying no rather than avoiding the situation by not confronting it. I remember on my mid-20s when my social life started to change, people just getting busier, getting married, etc. I can't even begin to tell you how many invites to hang out or when I asked if someone could do something I just got ignored. One time a friend said she wouldn't respond to invites if she didn't want to go in. I'm just like, do you have any idea how bad people feel when they're just ignored? Seriously, it crushed me when people just didn't respond or blew off my invites. I stopped inviting them to do things and friendships fizzled out. However, I do remember the people who would say things like this weekend doesn't work for me and let me know about next time, or I don't really like hiking but thanks for the invite. urbanlulu said. She would always hum and haw and say maybe when she meant no. I actually had the worst habit of this years ago. Anytime I said maybe it almost automatically meant no, and I learned after going to therapy and doing a shitload of self-work, I realized I did it because I never knew how to say no to people. I grew up being taught the word no had major consequences, meaning you say no for whatever reason and you get in wicked trouble for it, and then you were forced to do the thing you just said no to. So for me, it was easier to just say maybe because I was horrified of saying no and was scared of having people scream, yell, and angle my no over my head and making me feel like shit because of it. Like even when I did have the balls to flat out say no to my friends or family, I was always coaxed, guilted, and manipulated into doing whatever I just said no to. The word no in general just held a lot of trauma to it for me, and sadly still does. But I am now a lot better at using the word no than I was 6 years ago, so it's progress. Ravinido said. People suck up this one so much, I see it all the time at work. We are salaried, no OT required, and I am always seeing people working a stupid amount of hours. I put my 8 hours day in and go home, or log off since WFH during COVID. I have seen some coworkers putting in 50-60 plus hours on a regular basis when it's not even required. Oh sure, they find an excuse. I committed to finishing X by Friday, but the reality is that the work will still be there tomorrow and there is always more work to do. Or they take on extra work that's not really their job, trying to help out one time, and then they get asked again and again, and eventually that extra work just becomes their responsibility. The more you do, the more that is expected, so eventually you're expected to produce an amount of work that takes 60 hours a week, and it's just not sustainable. These people burn themselves out for no reason. There's nothing wrong with working extra because of an emergency on occasion or helping someone out if you have time, but regularly giving in turns this into the new expectation. Companies will take as much as you will give them and pay you as little as possible in the process. Set your boundaries and stick to them, or you're going to regret it later. Nam 4002 said. Start by researching the types of therapy. There are many different therapy methods, and matching the one for your goals is the first step. Then research the therapist in your area that fit that therapy type, and find someone with experience working with your specific background and goals. Then meet with as many as you need to feel comfortable. There is nothing wrong with interviewing multiple therapists to find the right one. For me, I landed on EMDR and CBT as the type, and found a therapist that had some background and experience with the religion I was raised in. You can PM if you have more questions. Edit. This blew up a bit and I went to yoga, and my kids get dropped off in a few minutes. I'll respond to the chat requests and response later tonight once I get my kids to bed. Feed Me Churros said. I'm right there with you. I quit 236 days ago to the day. I'm the same as you. I can't just drink 1 or 2. I wish I could. I had actually quit for 3 years before starting drinking again, and after the 3 years I thought for sure I had grown up and could manage social drinking and just having a couple beers. Within a month after starting back up, I was drinking a 12-pack of high ABV beers every single night, and that continued for a couple years. It has been hard quitting again, but I feel like I'm over the hardest hump, and I just have to remind myself that there is no moderation for me. I have to be done altogether. Good luck and keep up the fight. Donscr91 said, I went back to office work half the time. It is nice to see everyone, but once I start working I hate it. 99% of people spend a maximum 6 hours a day working. The time sitting at my desk for image between 3 and 5 are absolutely brutal. Everyone can see my desk and laptop, no Reddit, no anything. I grind away for 6 hours to scroll through the same shit I've seen on LinkedIn 100 times. At home, I am more comfortable. Can get out of administrative busy work done when I have a TV show or movie I've seen a million times playing in the background. For serious need to be on top of it stuff, I have my basement. Fuck driving in the car for over an hour every day to say hello to people. Delica said, I was very shy and self-conscious, but at some point I started just living how I wanted. I already wasn't popular. What was I risking? Girls still wouldn't be interested? I guess I just started doing things I've been afraid to do before, including being more outgoing. I know this sounds like generic advice, but it really worked for me. Every time your brain says no, that wouldn't work out, or no, what would people think, or any other version of no, don't try, it's a perfect opportunity to do something you feel drawn to. Dye your hair pink. Try painting even though you know you'll suck at it. Fart and then say it was me. Okay, maybe not the last one. Lab coatcomie said, for me, it took acknowledging my own adulthood and really, truly gripping the fact that even if I fuck up, once I decide I'm going to do it, I'll do it and deal with the consequences. I work in R&D, and I still have to remind myself that for every one project that goes right, there are going to be 99 that flop and just aren't go the way I want. But if I don't do those other 99 and learn from them, I'll never get that magical happy feeling when it hits the bullseye. Being scared is fine. Being so scared that it prevents you from living requires a lot of willpower to overcome. Going on Adventure said, taking vitamin D supplements and getting a therapy lamp for the winter. Holy shit, does it make a difference. I realized after my first year of university that the reason I didn't do well in the winter semester was because I was feeling depressed and exhausted due to lack of sunlight. I live in Canada, so the days are way shorter in winter. So when you leave before the sun rises, get home after it sets and wear a coat all day so your skin is exposed to no sunlight, you miss a lot of vitamin D. So I take vitamin D supplements each morning to make up for what I'm missing, and I use a therapy lamp to simulate sunlight in the morning. You feel way more energized and awake during the day. I would highly recommend it to anyone who feels exhausted in winter. P.S. If you're interested in a therapy lamp, look up SAD lamp or seasonal affective disorder lamp. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the award. Edit to awards. Karlmarx sloth said, I did this a few years back and it was a game changer. I still have 3 types though: calf height black socks for office work, calf height white socks for outdoors work and boots, white ankle socks for casual wear or workouts. Laundry day is easy peasy for my shit. It's the 47,000 different kinds and colors of socks that my kids have that is the problem. Joe 40V said, I'm ready to get my teeth fixed for good, and spend all my savings doing it, but my father is holding me up trying to find a cheaper alternative. He doesn't understand how much of an impact it has on my self-esteem. I'm almost going behind his back and just doing it. Edit. OMG, I wasn't expecting so much support. Thank you guys so much for all the advice. I'm not from the US, I'm currently living in Portugal, but I'm actually Brazilian. I'll analyze the better option, travel to Brazil and get it done, much cheaper and equal or even better quality, or just doing it here for convenience. Gentlemenvillain said, when I got my first real job, I still had no money. The options for something to drink at work were either paying for a soda or water, which was free. One day of drinking water all day, no coffee, no soda, just water, and I had this holy shit. I've just been thirsty for the past 25 years. Moment, and I never looked back. Water. Or beer. That's it. Ryanrbenson said. Accepting at 28 that I was a very emotional guy and letting myself cry whenever I needed to. I swear I cried constantly for about a year straight, as if catching up on all the feelings I repressed my whole life. However, it tapered off about a year ago and it kinda sucks. It's as if I literally grew thicker skin through truly allowing myself to feel the painful things I felt, and it's become increasingly difficult to cry like I used to. It felt really good to just let everything out. Mechanical Man said. I started up right towards the end of college, ran a full mile and struggle busted. Fast forward about 2 years later, and I decided I was going to run daily, try to get a few miles in after work before I get home. I ended up getting up to about 8 miles one night and was amazed I got that far. Another 2 years later I joined a local run club and actually put in some impressive times that I didn't think I had capability of. I then moved, found a different run club, met my wife, we now have a child and cats and an awesome place together. I've done some ultra running, triathlons, all sorts of stuff. A lot of my friends will comment how great of shape both of us are in, but honestly, we've just maintained the same shape since high school. I'm not too much different, I just work out daily and never really stopped. So yeah, I'd recommend running to everyone. The best part is you already have the gear. Just put on some tennis shoes, throw on a shirt and shorts, you're ready to go. Don't worry about the fancy running shorts or shoes when starting, you'll want them eventually, but for doing a few miles a few times a week, all one needs are just some regular athletic shoes. Jobsucks said. Fixing my relationship with food. Portion sizes. Decimating junk food intake back where it should be, a rare treat. Increasing veggie intake. Limiting red meat. Limiting dairy. Limiting refined sugars. I haven't actually stopped anything 100% cold turkey, chocolate, crisps, candy, takeout etc. cold turkey, in that I don't scorn myself for buckling and having some, but I've just wound it back completely. It's been a major contributor of why I'm minus 20 kg than I was in January 2021. Swing Girl Athert said. This is a change I made only a few months ago, but it's been major. I struggle with clinical depression and extreme executive dysfunction, two conditions that exacerbate each other and have taken a lot of time out of my life the past 20 years. I've been doing better but still experience long periods of time when I'm barely functioning, and it's a miracle if I can even make it out of the house, let alone do anything productive. My therapist is a big advocate of being kind to oneself, and in theory that's the mentality we all should have. There's no reason to punish ourselves when we're already struggling. But for me, the idea that I should be kind to myself is far easy to corrupt. As in, I'm not going to clean my kitchen because I'm tired, and the kind thing is to let myself sleep for 15 hours or watch Netflix. It's really not kind to let myself do that, and it only makes me feel much worse, both physically and mentally, but it's way easy to fall into the trap and make it a habit. Swing Girl Athert said. But on the same token, constantly valuing productivity over rest is the other nasty end of that spectrum. I burn myself out being overly productive, and then have no time for creative pursuits or fun things or resting, and then I inevitably crash and end up right back in the pit of depression where I started it. It's simply not sustainable. Finally, my therapist came up with a narrower concept to follow. Is what you're doing right now the restorative thing? Somehow this was the key for me. Every day, I ask myself if I'm doing something restorative, and if I'm not, I go do something that is. Most of the time, it's something productive or creative, and when it's not, I'm doing something fun or restful. There are times when lying in bed watching Netflix is the restorative thing, but usually I find the answer is somewhere else, and I'm much happier and more functional for it. Egyptian Devil 78 said. I cut my mother out of my life a few years ago, and I wish I had done it as soon as I moved out, just as I did to my father. My life has been so much better since she hasn't been in it. I feel better about myself, I'm not being treated badly, and I can do what I want without fearing judgment. I'm glad I never reconciled, either. From what I hear from siblings, she hasn't changed a bit. She still has to be right all the time, she still lies about shit, and she still pulls authoritarian bullshit. I've pretty much written her off. She has 7 years left to come to me, apologize for the nasty shit she did, take responsibility for aforementioned actions, and proves she has changed or is in the process. But if she doesn't do that within the next 7 years, there's no way in hell I'd reconcile with her. Egyptian Devil 78 said, I cut my mother out of my life a few years ago, and I wish I had done it as soon as I moved out, just as I did to my father. My life has been so much better since she hasn't been in it. I feel better about myself, I'm not being treated badly, and I can do what I want without fearing judgment. I'm glad I never reconciled, either. From what I hear from siblings, she hasn't changed a bit. She still has to be right all the time, she still lies about shit, and she still pulls authoritarian bullshit. I've pretty much written her off. She has 7 years left to come to me, apologize for the nasty shit she did, take responsibility for aforementioned actions, and prove she has changed or is in the process. But if she doesn't do that within the next 7 years, there's no way in hell I'd reconcile with her. An ineffable plan said, going on meds that actually work. Edit, since people really want me to be specific for some reason, I'm taking a blend of psychotropic medications to manage my depression, anxiety, and ADHD. I have no need to name them, and besides, what works for me might not work for another person, so I can't recommend medications. Please do not ask me to name things. Worship Nick Offerman said, testosterone therapy. I was late 30s and fucking miserable. Drinking too much, bad depression, lethargy, no sex drive, the works. I googled my symptoms and everything was point to low T, but my doctor refused to put me on T, saying my numbers were within the acceptable range. The acceptable range is 200-800 for all men 1880. I was at 200. Went to a pay-to-play clinic and they put me on T that same day. A few months later, it started working and everything in my life got better. Sitting here 6-7 years later, I get a weekly injection and I'm about as happy as I can be. Tell everyone I know that if nothing else, get your numbers checked so you know where you are. And these days, more and more places are offering female sex hormone therapy that has the same effect as T does on men.